You want to know something, kid?
What, Papa?
This world has a lot of problems, but it can never be a horrible place, because you're in it.
It's a common thing to hear that modern people are enduring a meaning crisis. As technology makes us more lonely and less family-oriented, I admit that I fear that many of us will miss out on something that has always offered refreshment and hope to cynical, worn-down adults: the innocence of children. G.K. Chesterton said that the world will never starve for want of wonders, but only for want of wonder. Being around children, and even embracing our own inner child, helps us to find joy again and to truly see the wonder and beauty in simple things in life that often grow dull to us. Innocence embodied in a child has a strange sort of power, a power that may be able to rescue us from our cynicism if we are open to it. Now, this is not a new idea by any means, but as a lover of stories and a dad myself, I've appreciated seeing this theme come up often in popular media. Here are a few that have been meaningful to me that I think offer some surprising depth and connections. First, I think that the commercial success of the Minions, cute as they may be, has sadly overshadowed how well this theme is played out in the first Despicable Me. When we are first introduced to Gru, who is he but a callous, narrow-minded adult? He is shackled to a self-proclaimed, singular sense of identity. Like so many of us, he attempts to find meaning in climbing the ladder according to a set of socially defined expectations, and like many of us, there are wounds from his past that have nudged him along. Gru is a caricature, but I think he echoes the concerns that Stanford psychology professor Jamil Zaki has expressed with widespread social cynicism, especially in the wake of the COVID pandemic. Zaki goes as far to call this pessimistic view of humanity and the lack of trust and connection that follows a disease of social health. So what is it that rescues Gru from his cynicism and forges connection? In a word, this despicable villain is saved by innocence.
You don't love me!
But what about those three orphan sisters is so transformative to him? It's their curiosity and joy. It's the delight they find in things he might consider trivial. It's the ease with which they connect and love and trust. And the demand for reciprocal love and trust that this implies towards Gru wakes him up from his cynical selfishness and moves him towards adopting the role of caregiver and protective parent.
I will catch you, and I will never let you go again!
That's Despicable Me in a nutshell. We see a very similar pattern play out in The Mandalorian. My favorite thing about this show's excellent first season is the parallel the writers make between the protagonist Mando and droids.
Oh no.
In the first episode, we learn that Mando doesn't trust droids. Yet this is ironic, because we learn that he is, in so many ways, a programmed robot of a man. This is, of course, played up by his hidden face and his armor, but as is so common in the adult world, he has been socially programmed, guided by an unflinching code handed down to him, seared into him by a traumatic past.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Yet like Gru in Despicable Me, Mando is unsuspectingly taken aback and transformed by the innocence of a child. He too is instinctively called to a kind of fatherhood. In exactly the same way that the assassin droid is reprogrammed throughout the season,
You'd have to learn everything from scratch.
so too is Mando reprogrammed by this new sense of calling. Just as Gru turns from a life of cynicism and villainy, Mando turns from an unemotional life of violence and bounty hunting to a new mission: to nurse and protect. Even in a world of galactic empires and planet-destroying technology, who would believe the power of a vulnerable child? And most recently, let's look at the 2025 adaptation of the Dog Man comics, which are beloved by my kids and countless others. If you can embrace the silliness of the humor, there is so much heart in Dog Man. Like our first two stories, the true arc of the film centers on a rigid and pessimistic adult, Petey, the world's most evilest cat.
Yes, destroy all do-gooders!
We might think of ourselves as beyond Petey's dismissive, two-sided division of evil people and do-gooders, but how many of us tend to make similar judgments at first glance? The source of transformative innocence in Dogman is little Petey, Petey's clone that he has high hopes for.
Okay, listen up. You're my clone, which means evil runs through your veins.
Yet in the same way that Gru and Mando are shaken up by the vulnerability and innocence of children, it is again little Petey's trusting, loving, and wonder-filled view of the world that somehow rescues the world's most evilest of cats.
But you're not like me.
Maybe I am, but you just don't like that part.
Why? What do you care?
He's my papa. I love him.
I also appreciate the realism in Dogman of the addition of Petey's father, who persistently and, in the end, chooses evil. To me, this underscores that redemption is, ultimately, up to our willingness to repent and accept grace and love when it is offered to us. All these stories point to the very real power of the innocence of children, and this is a truth borne out by modern science too. For example, in her book, The Philosophical Baby, developmental psychologist Alison Gopnik points to the way that children model for adults a more conscious, open, and wholehearted view of the world. So what are we to do? As a dad, I would unsurprisingly advocate for parenthood, despite the many challenges it entails. I admit I'm concerned with the dropping birth rates around the world, and it's also complicated to look at some recent studies that actually name a lack of meaning as an increasingly common deterrent to people having kids. I have to wonder if people are actually then foregoing a potential source of meaning in making this choice. But it's not a choice that should be downplayed. Parenthood implies a persistent and continual choosing. If the stories of Gru, Mando, and Petey were played out in the real world, their life-altering adoption of their new roles is not a one-time point of acceptance. It's a responsibility, and at times a burden, that must be chosen time and time again. But that's not the only route. I would like to think that most of our lives overlap with children in some way. May all of us cynical adults find ways to seek out, care for, and learn from any children that may find their way into our lives.